I was in service twice, you know.
Yeah. Well, now you was wounded. You a double. I'm gonna let you tell it. I'm gonna let you tell the story.
I was wounded twice.
Yeah.
I was wounded twice. I got wounded at 2 different times. And, so,
You get around good.
well, what you drank?
Man, that guy upset me doing that on the bridge, but I mean, what can you do? He's in a truck. He drove by me. He thinks he's tough. You know what? That don't make you tough because you're in a big loud truck.
No, I've done been mad today. Tried to call Carrie,
Yeah.
and I tried to call Jordan off the school bus, but she had it fixed where he couldn't talk. She's a sorry bitch.
Oh, I don't get an earache. I had my hair wet and I was walking in that cold.
Well, that's not good. That's not good at all. Anyway.
Granddad, that dog poop prank I pulled on you, if you would have been the old you and you would have seen that on your porch, you would have went off.
Yeah, I would.
You'd have been hunting that dog down.
Yeah, I would. You know me, let me fix the biscuits where I'd get them in there where they start cooking.
This is old-timey sweet milk gravy and biscuit. Got
Well,
bacon.
I'm as old time as they come.
As they come.
I'm about one of the last old timers left.
Oh, I know. There's a...
Do what?
There's like 500,000. There's less than that World War II vets right now.
Yeah, now they shot quite a few that went in after I got out, you know.
Yeah.
And they claiming they were World War II veterans. They're not World War II veterans. They wasn't even in there during the war.
You went in the beginning of the war.
I was very beginning.
1922 you was born.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what people think.
I'll keep this glass, I'm gonna need it.
Yeah, okay.
Well, and I was telling you, don't even like try to take responsibility. I mean, you say, well, I'm no hero.
I'm not a hero. I've done what a lot of them. I just done what a lot of people done here.
Was you drafted or did you voluntarily?
I volunteered. I was a junior in high school. I've always volunteered for everything I've ever done in that line.
Hey, there's the phone. I'll bring it to you.
It's probably, I bet it's, let me, if it's
Scotty, you want me to answer? Here, you answer. You know what to do.
Hey, boy.
That's my big brother calling from the penitentiary.
What'd they say?
The police told Tommy Prophet that. Tommy Prophet, he said, I know. He said, I know he ain't.
I don't know why they say anything to you. They ain't got no business saying anything. You ain't got that.
I know.
Well, I just don't pay no attention to that. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll talk to the sheriff.
It's rolling.
My name's Harold Key. I'm a 96-year-old. I was born in 1922 in Monville, Tennessee. I was born in the home of my granddaddy, Papa Bubkey and his wife Betty, my mother and daddy, was staying all night down there, and I was born there that night in their house, and it's on the old Watermill Road below Monville, and next to it was 2 mills where they ground flour and meal for bread, and flour, wheat for flour, and I had the experience of seeing a lot of that done, and then a lot of fishing there in the hole there where they got the power from. Had a wall across the creek. My granddaddy was a member of the state legislature. He was a very smart man, and Mama Betty never did do anything except but was a housekeeper, a housewife, I guess you'd say. And my daddy was her son, and Uncle Walter Key was another son. Ed Key was another son. And they all had Aunt Belver married John Farley, and then Aunt Helen married Lish Morris. They all was fairly well-off people, and we lived good. They had a store there in Mobile, and so as I grew a little better, I was pretty sick when I was first born, they said, but they left Papa Bub's house when I was 2 weeks old, and went to Smith Branch up there at my granddaddy's, Walter Gregory and Sadie Gregory, and we went there and went up there, stayed in an old house right below my granddaddy's. It wasn't much more than a barn stable. It was cold weather and all, but we stayed there one winter, and it come a storm in the spring. I was around 2-year-old. I don't remember that, but it blew the house aside, and I remember seeing the effects of it later on, where it blew the house aside, and then finally my daddy tore it down, and we moved in with Mama Gregory till I was a 4-year-old. And then we moved to Carthage, and my granddaddy helped us financially. My daddy had a job, but he didn't make all that kind of money, and we went to Carthage, and he rented a house going up to the high school building. And when I became 5-year-old, I went to my first class, walked up there, and Miss Era Allen, she was a teacher then, and she was my teacher, and that was 3 schoolhouses ago, the old high school building and the gymnasium, but it burned while I was in school there, accidentally they said. But anyway, after 1 year there I went to the first grade. My daddy decided to move to Monville. We moved back to Monville, down there where Ralph Green and Joanne and them lived, across from Uncle Walter's house. We moved in that house, old store building. It was not fit to live in, but we lived in till my daddy got a hold of a little money and built a new house there. And we lived in a tent up there at the Nazarene Church, right across from Book Massey, right above the Monville Church, Peyton Creek Baptist Church. It's been several places, including up there close to Graveltown, and then at the mouth of the Key Holler. I remember when the poorhouse was at the mouth of the Key Holler when I was a young boy, and people would die and they'd bury them in a pauper's grave there on Uncle Lish Morris's property. And then after that, they built a new schoolhouse, and I went there and graduated and went to high school at Carthage High School. But during that time, my daddy and granddaddy was doing some things that I didn't think was too nice. They were making whiskey, and the still, one of them was up behind my granddaddy's house up next to Arliss Gregory, and Arliss helped them in making the whiskey. That was my first whiskey I ever see made, and I learned how to make it there, and I got to where I could make it better than the old men could. And they'd brag on whiskey, but I didn't realize how stupid I was at that time. So it went on. I started making more whiskey and selling it to different people, different towns, and it went on for quite a while, selling it and all. The sheriff liked me, and he didn't bother us. He didn't care if we sold it. So that we finally, when I went to high school, then I quit fooling with that whiskey for a while, and I played football. I made the All-Middle Tennessee right guard, and we played some mighty fine teams then. We played Oak Ridge, and we played DuPont and Old Hickory and Gallatin and quite a few towns. We played Gallatin one time, and Harry Neal Kemp, that's Kurt Kemp's boy, started to fight. He started to fight every time we played anywhere. If we won or didn't win, he'd start a fight. And so we had a good time, but yet we had to fight sometimes. We did at Hartsville. And so I went on, and as a junior, then war started. War was in December of 41, and then I went to the draft board, Judge Webb Adlin. I told him, I said, I want to volunteer to go. And he had me in the next call. That was in February after I talked to him, and they wanted me to go. So I passed in flying colors, and so they sent me Roundhead Woodard, drove a school bus and carried me to Nashville. I was sworn in down there at Nashville, and I was Navy, and I went to Bainbridge, Maryland for a little training, and we learned how to train with wooden guns because they didn't have real guns at that time. And then we went from there, and Cordell Hull and Albert Gore came out to see us there, and they knew me, and they came out to see what was doing. They wanted to see what progress we was making, and we were doing pretty good, they said. They went back to Washington, and then that night, best I remember, we got orders to get ready to board the bus, and we had to go to Little Creek, Virginia for some further training. And our training, I found out, was we were going to be put on merchant ships as gunners. They'd pick 7 and 8 of us out of one bunch, and most of my crew was from the South. And our job was, if we seen a submarine, if they raised the periscope up, it was our job to shoot the periscope out, the sightings of it. But we didn't have, able to get close enough, but it sunk some of our ships right there. One night I saw a ship blow up, and every man on it was lost. And we lost a lot of good men there. And once we got almost to Casablanca, we lost another ship right close to us. I saw it burn and sink, and I don't think a man was saved that was on that ship. But anyway, we went to Casablanca, and in there, the Germans had a battleship there, the Kraft Spey, and they had scuttled it because they didn't want the Americans to capture it, and it had sunk there in the harbor. And they put us on the train, and we went a while, but they changed it, and we rode trucks all the way to Oran, Africa. It took us 3 or 4 days. We got there, and then the next day, I was in the back of a truck, and a German plane come over and was bombing in front of us, and the guy driving the truck lost control, and he veered over trying to miss some stuff, junk stuff that was in the road, and threw me out, and I hit in that iron stuff, and it hurt my stomach, cut me up pretty bad. I thought I was going to die then, but I pulled out. When I was in the hospital, I seen I had a chance. So I didn't stay there but a few days, and they took me out of the hospital, They put me on another ship, the William G. Fargo, and we went to Italy. That was and I.H. Wilmore, it so happened, was I found out he was on another ship. I found it out through the Red Cross, and we landed in Sicily on Yellow Beach and went ashore there and went ashore. But that's where Jack Key had got drowned. His ship had gone in, but it hit some rocks, and he wasn't able to swim. He had a pack on his back, and he sunk and got drowned. But a lot of other Americans did also. So we went there, and we went through Sicily. I met some very, very influential Italian people. Then we left there, and we went to Italy, across the bay harbor, went up by Mount Vesuvius and Mount Etna in Naples, and we went on up, and I found out that Ed Searcy was there in the camp. Captured some German. They had them prisoner. Well, I went there, and I was dressed in a Navy outfit, and they thought I was some big fine officer. But anyway, Ed finally told them who I was, and they were scared of me. They wouldn't out there, they wouldn't even walk close to me. So we stayed there a day or two, and then I decided I went on north, and I.H. Wilmore was ahead of me. And he got up there to Mount Vesuvius, and then it was erupting. Well, in that south of Naples, Italy, north of Naples, I'm sorry, out of Aversa, a lot of Germans, they were hid and nobody knew they was there. They were called the Black Shirt. Well, I.H. was there between, he was at Anzio, and he was fighting them, and I.H. Wilmore is a hero as far as I'm concerned, because the man in the Red Cross told me that he killed a bunch of them, and he run out of ammunition, I.H. did, and he went, and they was going to kill him, and he hid in a snowbank. Well, in that snowbank he froze, his feet did, and the rest of his life he had a problem with them, but he finally lived and got out of that. And I went on down to where they were fighting, and it wasn't a little bit, they come and got me and put me on a ship, and I left there, and then they carried me to an island there, where I knew it was a famous island for somebody, and so it was a little island there that the head of European nation was buried there, and so I went off there. We was going to get some German prisoners and take them back to Naples, and so after that, then we went into southern France, and that's where invasion of France. We went in next to the south part of France, and I shouldn't have done it, but I got out and walked up the street, and there were a lot of French people there celebrating us getting the Germans out. And I asked them if they could speak a little English. I said, "Where are the Germans at?" He said, "Outside of town." And that scared me. I was afraid that they were some of them close enough to shoot me. But I went upstairs. They were celebrating there in Marseille, and I went upstairs, and there was a beautiful girl with her parents there, and I had a book where I learned to say a few words in French. Laissez-moi vous, as I love you, and bonjour, and such as that. I'd learned a few of them, and I told her, "Laissez-moi vous," and she said, "Oui, oui." Well, her daddy wanted me to bring her to America, but I had no way of bringing her then, because she was a French citizen, and I guess she had come. But anyway, we got on a ship there then and went to Panama, South America, and stayed there 2 or 3 days and replenished our supplies, and then we went to Hawaii and got some orders, and we went then to the South Pacific, and we went to Aniwetok. That's where there was a testing the atomic bomb, and we went to Guam and Guadalcanal and just a bunch of the little islands, and we had to find our way. I'd go ashore there, and I found out that the enemy was already in charge there, and so I got afraid to go. So I stayed on ship. I didn't want to go out. So we wound up in the Philippines, and that Subic Bay. That's where the death march was at, where so many Americans died, and I went there and helped on burying some people that got killed on the USS Nashville, a cruiser. They got bombed by, there was a a suicide plane, Japanese, that had hit the Nashville and damaged it and killed a lot of people. So we buried them at Subic Bay. Had to dig the grave with something like a bulldozer with a special unit on it and buried them. And I don't think the right soldier got the right marker, but anyway, they're buried there at Tacloban in the Philippines. So we come on home then. The war was over. At that time, we come on home, and then they sent word for me to come back in. And I went back in after I had married, and we had 3 children, and the youngest one was very small at that time, and so we the house out there where Penny lives now, we lived there. The woman, we knew the woman. It used to be my daddy's sweetheart. She was a Bennett woman, and we slept in that front room on the right where Bubba slept, and the kitchen was back in the back, and she lived in the other part, and so we got along with her, and that's when I left, and they wanted me to come back in the Navy. Well, I went back in the Navy, and they sent me to a ship in San Francisco. We went to the South Pacific, 2 or 3 islands down there, and then I got hurt again. Ammunition, some men had been loading ammunition, and they had the steel boxes to store the shells in, and it tripped and fell and cut me up pretty good, and my leg and my back and my belly, and so I was lucky again. So anyway, then they halted that war, and I got to come home. And Virginia and them, we lived from pillar to post. I run the Bloody Bucket and made whiskey to my sorrow, and we lived real good and had plenty of money to spend. And I'd go up north and I'd sell whiskey to the mafia. I met them when I was in the Navy in Italy, and then I met them in New York. And so we met a lot of good Italian people, but they were like me, they were mean. And so I did that for several years and run the Ideal Tavern. And so I decided that I was going to straighten up my life, and I quit. And I got me a job with the state, the traffic engineers. Jimmy Norris and I got a job at the same time, and he worked with me, and we traveled over Tennessee, and we made fairly good money, not anything exceptional.